What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. This is episode number 107. I am your co-host, Jason, and joining me, as always, as usual, is Will over there. What's up?
Hello. Yeah. So if you've seen the title, you know that we're going to be going into our third iceberg of the GAP. However, this time round, I am not in any way responsible for it. I have no idea what we're talking about. Instead, Jason has taken up the mantle and put it on himself to create our third iceberg. So I think it's apt for Jason to take the floor to intro the topic, explain what the fuck his iceberg is about, and then lay it on me and the listeners.
Right. So, dear listeners, if you remember Iceberg 1 and 2, which is led by Will, I think the first one talked about controversies.
Yeah.
And then the second one talked about...
More controversies,
yeah. So I decided to go in a different direction and more of like an edutainment type of angle. The things that we are going to talk about is kind of like the ins and the outs and the inside jokes, or how knowledgeable people are about anime and manga genre, subgenres, tropes, and tags. This obviously will cover a lot of ground that if you are a veteran of the space, of the industry, most of this stuff should not be new information to you, or maybe you will learn little nuggets of information here and there. But my objective is kind of to say that anime... First of all, I wanted to make an anime iceberg that is not necessarily in the dark, grim, fucked up area, and maybe something that focuses a little bit more on the more broad spectrum of things, although there are some fucked up stuff that I have in here.
But yeah, so that therefore, I understand you want to keep it a little more on the lighter, shallow side, but I'm still going to, just for this episode's purpose, still put in the different names, the layers that
Fair enough.
outlined before. At least then we can sort of reference back and make it so that it's easier to sort of separate which layer we're talking about rather than just numbering them.
Sure. So, while Will does that, that is going to essentially, we're going to talk about all the different aspects of the genre, subgenre, tropes, and tags that you've probably heard us or yourself has gone through and heard about time and time and again when you are acquainted with anime and manga, some of which obviously you've heard of, some of us we spend a lot of episodes on. But this is not about those deep dives, but this is about sort of saying, oh, if you are kind of acquainted with anime and manga, you probably have heard of these things.
I think, like, as far as any sort of like entertainment media goes, like every form has a whole umbrella of different genres and themes, right? So like with video games, you'll have like shooters, and within shooters you'll have first person or FPS, then you have like third person or over the shoulder, you'll have like RTS, real-time strategy, so either it's like real time, whether it's turn-based, then you also have like multiplayer games, whether it's like online battle arenas or online RPGs and so on and so forth. So there's always going to be like little nuggets of like a genre or a theme attached to the specific medium. Anime and manga, though, is like just trying to talk about all the different genres, subgenres, themes, and sub-themes is like what was it? What database did you show me where it's like you do a drop down and there's like 50 million different tags.
Anime Planet
has ones where it's like, oh, within
19th century,
within supernatural, there's fairies, there's goblins, there's vampires.
Do you like military?
Yeah. Do you like
teacher?
Do you like World War II? Do you like World War One? Well, there's those genres too. Do you like zombies? Well, there's zombies, and then there are talking zombies, and there's dancing zombies. Like there's so many like dissected different types of subgenres that if you even like touch the surface of anime, you would have interacted with the complexity and the depth that there is to the world of genres and subgenres in anime and manga.
So my objective, obviously, because there are so much to choose from,
I want to see how you do this. This is a massive undertaking.
So
this sounds really cool. So I do like this idea.
So what I was trying to do is split it by obscurity and niche versus something that is more colloquially known
or commonplace,
or maybe you don't know the name for that thing, but you know what it is.
Or it's like when you get into anime, it's like, my first interaction was Gundam, so of course I know mechas. Or
Right.
like I know about shonen because my favorite mangas are from Shonen Jump.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Or like because what Will mention is basically 2 of the 4 that I'm going to mention for the first layer, but also the other one is isekai, which is one of the things is isekai doesn't necessarily always mean reincarnation, even though a lot of it is reincarnation. So it's like one of those things where it's like Mythbusters in a way,
like breaching the surface, basically.
yeah, essentially like trying to acknowledge these different aspects. Maybe you didn't know the name for this, but then now you do, or you thought it was one way or the other, and then we keep going more and more obscure into the stuff that you're probably like, what the fuck is this? And becomes more and more uniquely anime and manga focused as much as I can.
Right. So let's I guess let's do a bit of a sort of disclaimer. Whilst this is, of course, like a more edutainment / educational take on the Iceberg, this is not by any means comprehensive.
Right.
This is barely touching into the surface of what the whole anime manga genre sphere has to offer, but I feel like, you know, especially since you spend time looking into this is probably like a good starting point.
Yeah.
Into touching upon subgenres and themes that people generally know about but may not know the full meaning of it, versus stuff that is like so under the radar, so dark in the depths that like you really do have to go through, like, you know, the 6 degrees of separation
Yes.
on Wikipedia, where it's like you start off with one character and you have to be able to jump through 6 different Wikipedia articles to get to
It's funny
to get to Kevin Bacon.
it's funny you say that, because originally, before this idea was your idea,
Right.
which was I was going to say this thing and that thing in this layer, this thing and that thing in layer 2, and what is the connection, and try to find the most weirdest 6 degrees of separation. But then I realized, it was either too hard or too easy that it just didn't matter. So then I was just like, that I had to scrap that idea. But for a while, that was actually my original idea.
Well, let's go into this. Let's go into the uppermost layer 1, or the surface of this sphere of genres and subtopics.
By the way, you listed layer 2 and 3 the same thing.
I will change that.
Okay, cool. So the layer 1, the surface, which is basically the things that is usually more commonplace. And as we go further and further into this episode, and
that's the tip of the iceberg.
The tip of the iceberg, right? So it would be the tip rather than the surface. So I think Will does 3 entries per layer.
3 or 4. I think this one, because of the fact that there's so many, like you obviously have freedom to fit in as many or as little as you want per layer.
Yeah, and also I wanted to take that opportunity not just to...
To be fair, for further ones, you could have more than just 4 layers.
Yeah.
You can really see how deep the iceberg goes.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also take each kind of genre or each type of tag and spend a little bit of time just to riff and talk about it, also to kind of give some sort of like edutainment kind of angle. So the first one is obviously, when you go into anime or manga, you probably heard of things like shonen, seinen, shoujo, josei, and another one called kodomomuke.
I know that one.
So you probably have not heard of kodomomuke, but shonen is pretty self-explanatory. It's teenager. Siulin, right? In Cantonese, 少年 in Mandarin, Putonghua.
Yeah, essentially when you break down the 2 words, like shou in this instance means like few or small, and then nen is like year or age. So then basically like small age, young age, essentially you're sort of like targeting that bracket of like
Teenager?
12 to 18, like that sort of like middle school, high school age group.
Yeah, obviously in like English we call it teenage, but teenage years, I would say more like puberty rather than like the latter half of high school. Like I would say anything from 12 to like 16, 17.
Yeah, so before the last 2 years of high school.
Yeah, is shonen, and that's the thing.
Actually, I would include high school too. I mean, basically like you aren't a
adult.
Yeah, you aren't legally an adult yet in most places. I think, like, for example, in Japan, it's 20. Or at least, like, because, like, that's the age you can start drinking and smoking cigarettes.
Right. Would you kind of say, like, the book genre of young adult fiction and young adult would kind of be the closest equivalent to shonen?
Young adult, I would feel like, is a step, like, half a step above shonen. So basically, like, it would be, like, 16 through to 21, something like that.
All right.
But you're not far off in terms of like the age group itself.
So let's, instead of going upwards from shonen, let's actually go backwards from kodomuke. So basically, it means children, child. Kodomo, right? That means child. So what it is you're, without trying to sound too reductive, it's like your kid shows, your cartoons, like Crayon Shin-chan. That would be that. I think there's like a ninja one that we would watch as kids that I think has a movie out now. Sakura.
Movies almost every year or so.
There is Doraemon. Those are what we would sort of be like the Saturday morning cartoons equivalent. I think Pokemon is like a weird in between.
Okay, so Pokemon itself, right? If we talk about like what it represents, is purely children's entertainment.
Yes,
but it's also kind of like those series of like cartoons and TV shows where it's like SpongeBob, for example.
Yeah,
where it's clearly meant to be targeted for children, but there's enough for people of all ages to be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
Much like Anne of Green Gables, much like
My Little Pony, kind of.
My Little Pony. Well, there's
I know bronies. Okay,
but for example, like Adventure Time.
Yes,
that one's a big example, right?
Yes.
Not the same as Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is not meant to be for children.
Not meant for children. So anyways, so that is like the children's section. Like when you go on my anime list, there's like the kids option. So when you click on that, that is basically this demographic.
Yeah. So to sort of like break that down a little bit further, like within like the kodomuke genre, there's also like 4 subcategories, which one would be anime and manga adaptations of Western stories. Most of them end up becoming like TV series, but they're less represented in traditional Japanese anime simply because they're Western stories. It's not something that is integral or at least like comparable to how a Japanese child would have grown up. So they would be sort of more modeled after like classical American or Soviet cartoons. Then you have another category, which is Japanese media and original works. So like gags or references to Japanese society and things that would not necessarily translate to non-Japanese audiences. In the same way of like how American animation is very much like American centric. Yeah, like for example, like Doraemon, right? Like a lot of the quips and a lot of the ways that like Doraemon like talks to all the other characters, it's not necessarily like the same sort of linguistic style or societal norm as what an American family would talk.
So for Will and I, who lived in and grew up in Hong Kong to a certain extent, if I mention 成語動畫廊,
yeah,
it is basically there is these 4-letter word phrases in Chinese that's called 成語成語, and it is a very unique type of phrase that not any regular 4 Chinese words put together equals this type of phrase. And there is kind of like the Saturday morning cartoon that basically does a cartoonized version of the origin of all these phrases.
Yeah, Chinese language in itself, especially like there is like a quote unquote proper government way of speaking Chinese, or at least like government recognized, like standard Chinese. Like, Chinese has a long history, so if you guys want to learn more about that, there are videos you can find. But what
not
Jason,
here though.
But what Jason specifically means is that there are a combination of 4 words that, when spoken, is meant to have more poetic influence,
like idioms,
imagery,
like
right?
idioms,
exactly.
sayings, kind of thing. Yeah.
Metaphors and stuff.
Yeah.
Like our metaphors are not as like direct in certain ways. It's not like
like 2 birds, 1 stone is a very good example of an equivalent phrase in Chinese.
Yeah.
And there are many, like hundreds of these that are very, very specific, and they all have these historical origins. And this cartoon just tells stories about each one of these.
Yeah. So in other sense, in other subcategories, there's also, just like how there is shonen and shoujo, there is also jojimuke, which is specifically anime and manga that's aimed towards young girls. For example, Hello Kitty. And then the last one, it's a bit closer to shonen. It's series that are more tied or more connected to video games and toy franchises. So Pokemon would fall under that.
Yeah, or like this random card game that
Beyblade.
Yeah,
no, Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that.
4-wheel drive.
Oh, that one, yes.
Yeah.
4-wheel drive was fucking awesome.
Captain Tsubasa, kind of, right?
That's not so much video game though, but that would be I feel that would be more shonen. That's still more shonen.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then now let's go into
It's just
shonen.
that the way they're drawn look more childlike than teenager.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So the shonen stuff is the Bleaches, the Narutos, like the One Pieces, the big three, if you will. Dragon Ball Z also is those that are very much formulaic to a certain extent, but is also very much catered to, I guess, it's not reductive to say like a more boyish crowd, but like, the action.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely more geared towards a male audience.
Yeah. Maybe that doesn't mean that you girls do not like shonen. There's plenty of people that do. It's just that if we go to the essence of that definition, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's not so much, we make stuff specifically for young males. It's more the fact that happens to be the biggest demographic that consumes our material. Therefore, we're going to go by that term.
With Shonen Jump being probably the most recognizable magazine anthology series that it has all of these mangas that you probably hear tons and tons of anime adaptations of. Now, when we go into the next step up, you might have heard Will and I talk about this, and Tezuka Production likes to fuck it up the most, is seinen.
Not all the time.
Not all the time.
They do
Fable.
Yeah, they do Fable.
But I don't know, more misses than hits in my opinion is the seinen. So if I try to do an equivalent, imagine Naruto and then Tokyo Ghoul. I would say Tokyo Ghoul is more on the seinen side, and seinen is essentially, I guess, like mature adult.
Now, it gets confusing when you try and translate the words, because seinen or like tinglin in Cantonese or tingyan in Mandarin, the word ting or say in this essence also means young or youth.
Yeah.
But it's as a term itself, it's more targeted towards young adult. That's what Jason was alluding to earlier. So rather than for like adolescent or prepubescent young males or just children in general, it's more sort of geared towards the upper age group of high school, college, that kind of age demographic.
Usually a lot more grimmer subjects, a lot more
risque, explicit.
Like I would say, for example, Vinland Saga is a seinen.
Absolutely.
Tokyo Ghoul is a little bit more on the seinen side.
The line's a bit blurred there, but yes, in terms of like the level of violence there is in there, it would move towards seinen.
The Fable, definitely a seinen.
Yes.
Even though the violence is maybe not as explicit or not as overt.
It's the theme.
It's the theme of it. It is the lack thereof of, friendship conquers all and, all those crazy tropes.
It's more just friends mean nothing. I'm here on my own and I will kill everyone who stands in my way.
There you go. And more ambiguity there. So then there's also the thing called shoujo, which is like a young girl, basically, to a certain extent.
So shoujo would be the female equivalent of shonen.
But shoujo has a more particular connotation of romance. And that is essentially what we call it as nowadays. When we say shoujo manga, when we say shoujo anime, it basically essentially means romance.
Yeah. And it's not to say that like, because it's made for women, that happens to be the genre that we will go with. It just so happens that traditionally when they were published, that was the genre that worked best for that age demographic and that gender demographic.
I am probably someone who reads a lot of josei and shoujo manga, and I'm a dude, so there you go.
Now, much like there is shoujo to shonen, there's also a female equivalent to seinen, which is josei.
And josei, I think, is the one that is probably the hardest to kind of pin down, just because it is a mature form of romance, which is kind of that, but it's also more about a more mature look at the interpersonal relationships between all the characters in the manga. It usually touches upon really hard metaphorical concepts of feelings, guilt, all those things that are really tough to kind of pin down in terms of defining or understanding, because it requires not only life experience, but it requires probably a lot of knowledge, a lot of social interactions to be able to fully appreciate. And josei, of course, even though it's usually pertain to older women, josei, I think, is one of those demographics that is the least represented, but probably has the most amount of potential.
It's weird, again, when we say like shonen is for young children to like middle high school age, and then seinen is like high school age to young adults. In this sense, the way that it's sort of defined is shoujo is marketed towards not just young girls but also young adult women, and josei is more for like fully adult women,
which they call ladies, essentially.
It's
I mean,
ambiguous as shit.
Look.
Again, like what I think people should understand is that these are not sort of concrete, definitive terms in terms of outlining what age group or what gender you are. It's more sort of the material that they produce during that time when these terms were coined, and so far, like, and what demographics tend to be. It tended to be popular with.
Right. Because, for example, josei is more, again, it is evolved past that, but it usually is reserved traditionally as drama and romance, but in, like, realistic settings.
Yeah. So rather than, like, a high school girl experiencing love, it might be more like a young divorced or widowed housewife or lawyer or whatnot trying to navigate life and find love again.
Yeah. So those are the types of demographics that are very much in all of these anime and manga, because you can kind of narrow it down to these really broad demographics.
Yeah. I think, like, no matter what manga, anime genre you have, in terms of a demographic, it will absolutely fall under one of those, whether it is seinen, shonen, shoujo, josei, or kodomo-muke.
Yeah. So that was our first entry in the tip. The other one that we've touched on is the Isekai genre. And the reason why I want to put that in is because, in general, the Isekai genre within an anime manga is very unique. Because you don't really get that in live action that much. Obviously, there are.
Yeah.
And also in the West.
Well, not enough to make it an industry on its own.
Yeah. Not enough that every 3 months there is at least a couple of entries in the anime space that is just...
Or new light novel.
Yeah.
Right?
Like the 100th light novel, right? So,
1,000th, more like. Yeah. There's so many, dude.
So, to be clear, though, isekai does not mean reincarnation. Isekai, actually, if you listen to our episode, I think it was 20...
Yeah, we definitely broke down the Isekai genre.
Episode 25, I think. You can double check that. Isekai means another world. Yep. Isekai.
Yeah, yi being the other or another or different, and then saikai or sekai in Japanese being world or universe.
Yeah. So one of the things that I just want to clarify, Mythbuster style on the top of the head is it does not mean reincarnation. So what that means is things like, oh, I get teleported to another world through, I didn't die. That counts as isekai to a certain extent, depending on how technical you want to be.
I mean, it literally was in the title.
Yeah.
Reincarnated into another world. Isekai.
Going into another world. Or it could be another world as in the video game space.
Yep.
Like Bonfuri, I think, like the max defense isekai.
Yep.
That is... I think Shangri-La...
I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense.
Yep. I think Shangri-La Frontier is basically an isekai because you go into a video game. You go... Or, like, basically SAO is kind of an isekai, too.
Yeah. I mean, like, people might start to dissect it, but, like, let's be real, right? There is a massive separation between what happens in the real world of SAO and what happens within the game SAO.
Yeah.
So, look, we're going to keep those separate. You might... Like, you want... One of the more original, I guess the original isekai would be Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah.
Right? Alice in Wonderland. There might be something even before that, but I think that one is like the most like notable example. In more contemporary terms, you would say The Matrix.
Yes. Yes. Legitimately, yes. The other thing that I also want to mention is trope, which is truck-kun, which is something that probably a lot of people understand, but it's one of those things that is so uniquely anime-driven.
But, I mean, to an extent, kind of a little bit overplayed. To the point where, like, even, like, newer isekais who do the truck-kun thing are very self-aware. It's like, oh, here's a truck coming. Guess I'm gonna go to a new life.
Or it's something like, they thought the truck will hit him or her, and then it misses, and then someone else hits him or her, and then they die. So... Truck-kun is essentially the very stereotypical way that people get reincarnated to go to the other world, which is they get run over by a truck, usually by saving someone or not focusing on a crosswalk or something, and then that's how it happens.
Yeah, and whether or not it is like the main focal point of a series, isekai as a concept, as a theme, has existed in a lot of different mediums. Like, for example, Doraemon, they always travel to other worlds, whether or not they die or whether they teleport. That in itself follows the concept of what an isekai is. Digimon is another example of an isekai, even though it's not an isekai, like by at least like popular conception, popular perception. Fun fact as well. Isekai is officially an English word in the Oxford Dictionary.
Shut up.
It was actually in 2024 March. The word isekai was added to the Oxford English Dictionary as an official English language word.
There you go. Taking things from Asian people. What else is new? Okay.
What will the British not touch?
So, in terms of the genre, Isekai genre, the well-known one, obviously, that has caused the most amount of stir in recent memory is Sword Art Online.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have a funny tidbit, which is in 2023, Anime News Network reported that due to the success of SAO, Kadokawa's dominance in the light novel space became absolute. And after Jobless Reincarnation, Mushoku Tensei, Isekai became 70% of light novel adaptations. Which, yes, when you hear that stat, you're not surprised at the fact. But I'm surprised at 70%.
It does kind of worry me, though, when it's such a saturated market of isekais that if the majority of them just don't slap anymore, right? They just aren't hitting anymore. Then what's left? Like, are people going to be scrambling to try and create stuff of a different genre, or are they going to keep homing in on the isekai genre and just hope that they make a revival?
Well, if you want to know the answer to that question, we talked about in episode 25.
It's here to stay.
Yeah.
It's never going to leave.
And there is going to be at least like 2 or 3 every single anime season. So, something though that should be probably more dominant, and it was dominant.
Oh, it was. Yeah, it had a stranglehold of anime and manga in the 80s through to the mid 2000s.
Is the mecha genre, or also known probably as the Gundam genre for a lot of people.
Just straight up Gundam. Yep. So,
I think one of the things that I would like to talk about is Oricon is kind of, I think, a Japanese source, right? A magazine. And in 2020, they said that Gundam and Evangelion is still selling to this day. But mecha anime has dropped from 20% to 5% of seasonal anime.
All right. So to sort of like give a little background information. So Oricon is a holding company in Japan that essentially provides statistics and information on music as well as the music industry globally. But because of the fact that they started branching out, it's now more sort of entertainment and media in general. So they will go over things like light novel sales, popularity of manga, the amount of airtime that a certain anime series gets. So whenever you want to see how popular or how well things doing, Oricon will probably have that information for you.
Yeah. And so then it goes to show that the drop from 20% to 5% may not sound like the biggest because it's a 15% difference. But if it's a 15% difference every single season...
It's not so much that. It's the fact that, like, for a period of time, 1 in 5 things was a mecha, which you think the whole manga and anime landscape, that's huge. Now, definitely nowhere near as huge as the isekai genre now. But we have to remember, during the 80s through to the mid-2000s, it was still pretty much a raw frontier for international anime and manga. Yep. And so for a lot of people who got into anime in the first place, it was probably one of, like, these 3. It was, these 5. It was either Slam Dunk, it was either Cowboy Bebop, it was either Naruto, it was either Gundam, or Sailor Moon.
Right.
Or Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, like those that era of anime.
And if you're really cool, you would say Macross instead of Gundam.
Yes.
But yes, those
or Mazinger Z. You want to go real further back.
Oh shit!
By the way, there was like a turn-based RPG that basically like encapsulated all of those mechas. Gundam, Mazinger Z, Macross. It was fucking awesome. I need to find out.
I don't even know that thing
It was
existed.
so cool. He said that when I played it, because it was only in Japanese, so our PlayStation was a Japanese PlayStation, so I played the whole game in Japanese. I have no idea what anything was saying, but I still finished the game.
Well,
very proud of myself. I need to find that game for you.
Sure. So, talking about Gundam, obviously it is the huge Goliath within the mecha genre. And I think even the last 2 mainline series, so The Witch from Mercury and I'm not going to pronounce it because I fucked up last time I pronounced it, the GUX, which is airing right now as we speak, is has a 2 female protagonists for the first and second time in franchise history, and it's back-to-back. So that is quite a big deal. And that is also quite an interesting change of pace and a change of character, literally. The other thing that I also want to say is that for those who go to Japan, you probably would want to visit the life-size Gundam statue to the point where Del Toro was like shedding a tear. I think Will told me about this story.
His dreams came true.
Yeah.
He was so happy to see, and it waved at him too. And he was just like, this is the best game. And this is a guy that has made so many goddamn good movies and games. And he's just like, this is the crowning moment of his life existing on this earth, is to see a real life mecha waving at him.
And one of those things is Pacific Rim, which is one of my favorite bad good movie. I don't know, how would you say it?
That's a movie. Was it a movie that was so bad that it was good, or it was just like, this really has no right to be a good movie?
That one, like I think it's one of the greatest movies ever. I wouldn't say it's up there in top 10, but it's like top 30 for sure. You might think I'm crazy, but if you had my background and my upbringing and just dumb stuff, and you packed it into this corny ass Transformer Evangelion, Godzilla looking thing, you get Pacific Rim, and it was just freaking awesome. I remember watching it in the movie theater. It was great. So now that I've sort of talked about that, the other thing that I also want to talk about is things that you probably heard of called fan service. So fan service is pretty much just, you might have heard the word ecchi being used. We use it all the time. Fan service as a word we use all the time. It's essentially the equivalent of, like, what? Puberty, horny stuff.
TNA.
Yeah. And what is a good staple of fan service?
Panties.
Yeah. And also beach and hot spring episodes, which is one of those things where, like, oh, is there a beach episode? Is there a beach arc? That's where, fan service is.
Motherfucker, there is a fucking beach episode in Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Was it good?
I mean, not in the ecchi fan service sense, but they still had one.
Didn't 86 have one too?
Yeah.
It was weird. So, again, why do they have that in there? It shouldn't be in there, but because it's one of those things that are part of anime and manga, they just need to have it. Why does Railgun have to have it? For no reason, even though it is kind of important for no reason there either.
It's definitely one of the more controversial terms within anime and manga, where it's like, what purpose it serves, but not everybody's on board with it. In fact, I think a lot of the controversy within anime and manga usually comes into the over-sexualization of female characters, which is completely understandable, right?
Yes.
You and I, Jason and Will, are no stranger to seeing all of this shit play out through any anime and manga that we've consumed. And look, we're two dudes. We're two heterosexual dudes. We like boobs and ass.
And when we were teenagers, we were, still into that stuff, right? So there you go. I mean, it's not every day you see in Monogatari a toothbrush scene be like the pinnacle of fan service, but apparently that's a real thing.
Yeah, we're not here to be saints and say, oh no, we are holier than thou. We do not subscribe to the words of ecchi and whatnot. No, we definitely do, but we also recognize that it can be a very sensitive area within anime and manga.
And sometimes they really push it really too far.
Yeah.
For everyone, honestly. You also hear Will said cultured, because that is kind of used ironically or sarcastically in a certain way. The other thing that I also want to mention for the layer 1 is something called CGDCT, which stands for Cute Girls Doing Cute Things. I think this is one of those subgenres or tags that is very much only present in this industry, which is the slice of life, the slow loops, the Yuru camps,
oh my god, I found the mecha turn-based game.
What's it called?
Super Robot Wars.
What a okay.
Yeah, or Super Robot Tyson.
Sure. I mean, that's a very on the nose type of.
I mean, what else would you name it, right?
I honestly don't know. I mean, good call, right?
Right, back onto the CGDT thing.
So, Cute Girls Doing Cute Things, slice of life is, I would say, within slice of life, Cute Girls Doing Cute Things is a subgenre.
but probably the most recognizable one.
Yeah, I mean, Lucky Star, Azumanga Daioh, all those are slice of lives where it's just cute girls doing cute things. And like Slow Loop, Yuru Camp, I mentioned. There's
DIY.
Tons of this, which is, it becomes its own thing. And that is something that I think is unique within anime and manga. All right.
It wouldn't really play out well in, like, live action, would it?
No.
It would be a little...
It would be very boring.
It would be boring as shit. Because it's really hard to be able to encapsulate the dullness of just watching people do a hobby, but also like make it cute and fluffy and entertaining.
Like in Non-Non-Byorei, all they do is walk on rice fields.
Dude,
and
in
it's super
Eurocamp,
cool.
they don't even do camping for 3/4 of the anime. They just plan what they need to buy. So they go and buy gas lamps. They go fix a tent. They go actually to their courtyard at their school and test to see if a fire would be able to withstand the wind.
And then the narrator speaks, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
So, all right, Layer 2. What I have tried to do, again, I don't do it always as the equivalent, which is the stuff that we talked about in Layer 1. The Layer 2 stuff goes back to Layer 1 or the previous layer.
There is some connection.
There is some connection. Obviously, not some are more tenuous than others. So
it's more like a subgenre within a subgenre, or like a loose connection, rather than like this is more obscure than that, or this is more devious or dark than that. Like there's really no like set definition of why certain things are lower in the totem pole.
Yeah. So Layer 2, the surface. The first one that we're going to talk about is about demographics once again. But this time, I'm going to talk about Yuri, Yaoi, Shonen Ai, Shoujo Ai, Girl Love, Boy Love. You probably have heard these terms used interchangeably, and to a certain extent, I would agree the fact that it's been used interchangeably, but each of those things actually means several different things. So, Girl Love and Boy Love is essentially two girls are into each other. Boy Love is two boys are into each other. Gay and lesbian oriented, LGBT oriented shows, mangas, light novels, so on and so forth. Girl love and boy love is the umbrella term that encapsulates these two subtypes, if you will. Then you get the shoujo ai and shonen ai. You probably have heard me say shoujo ai several times because that is essentially the girl love version of what I'm about to tell you, and shonen ai is the boy love version, which is there is this kind of story where the the relationship or the romance is more pure in a very weird way. It's not really, like I would say, smut or explicit. That is actually reserved for what is called yuri and yaoi, which is yuri for girls, yaoi for guys. And it's essentially yaoi and yuri is more explicit or more mature, just like with josei and seinen. And the same thing is with shoujo ai and seinen ai, is more like innocent, pure love, and not more like non-sexual, or at least like what the most sexual thing would be, like holding hands and kissing or something. Or maybe they show them doing stuff that is like off camera, but you know it's happening. Whereas in yuri or yaoi, you actually see it happening in front of you, that kind of thing. So that's the difference. There's another thing though. For example, in Barakamon, there is a girl with glasses that I forgot her name. She is, what she would call herself is a fujoshi. Now, what the hell does that mean? Or sometimes you might hear someone being called a fudanshi, and you'd be like, what the fuck is that? Okay, so the thing that you have to understand is fujoshi is essentially like rotten girl.
Yeah.
I know this sounds really weird, but it doesn't mean it that way. But okay, that's what
that's what the literal translation is.
Yeah, and fudanshi is like rotten boy or rotten older brother. But essentially, what it is people that like to play a lot of fan fiction. Essentially, they like two guys that I guess are not into another, or canonically are not into one another. But then they, in their minds or in their belief, these two are destined to be together. Or these two ladies are destined to be together, even though canonically they're either not in that sexual orientation or they're not into each other or whatever. It's basically fan fiction. So the reason why I mentioned that is because in Barakamon, there's a girl who is a self-proclaimed fujoshi, and one of the most hilarious parts was that I think she forgot her manuscript, and then she had to run back to the teacher's house, I think, to get it. And then, meanwhile, at the same time, the male main character is like standing next to this guy who's bringing him food, and the one guy accidentally trips over like himself and then falls on top of the other person, and then in comes the girl, and she kind of loses her mind. That is essentially Fujoshi, because those two people are not into one another romantically, but they were put in a position where her fantasy kind of, became reality. On the other hand, you might say, okay, so these are, things that are put canonically. Then what about when you get baited? So there is Yuru bait and Yaoi bait, which is essentially things like, for example, Yuru Camp is a good example, where are they into each other or not? In scientific railgun, are they into each other or not in a romantic sense? Or you think there is enough to suggest that, but then it turns out that that's not the case. Or it turns out that that's not even the point of that interaction.
Yeah. You might think it's lighthearted, and in most instances it really is, but there's obviously like a group of people when you see certain things and they can get a little bit triggered or a little bit upset about that.
Right. So I guess the guy equivalent would be like Free, which is about like the swimming guys who are like, Sound Euphonium is like the Yuri bait. So Free in particular is got into some controversy because they were accused of what was called queer baiting, when there had merch that was targeted against Fujoshis but avoided explicit boys' love. So what happened was essentially the whole will they, won't they, are they was put into question and then semi-confirmed, and then turns out to not be, like, it's like a betrayal of expectations.
In a sense, I think it might have been the fact that there was a lot of popularity, despite the fact that it was an original anime. So they needed some way of marketing, or at least hype, to be able to generate sales outside of anime production. So through merch, right? And so therefore, when you have this massive phenomena that you didn't yourself create, that's driving the interest of your property, you might as well ride that wave. But then they get called out on it.
Yeah. Same thing with another popular BL series, and one of the most well-known girl love series is Bloom Into You, A Given and Bloom Into You, where there were debates as to whether or not this was boy love and girl love. And then people started rioting, maybe not literally, but people just started freaking out about, is this queerness or not? Are they trying to avoid it because they're worried about upsetting people? Oh, and then it turns out that it goes one way or the other.
Like in this instance, or at least like in instances of bait, right? Do you feel that the onus is fully on the studio, or do you feel a lot of it is sort of just generated through like online social phenomena and like overeager or like over intense fan bases and fandoms?
This sounds like a cop-out answer, but I think it's both. The reason why I say it's both is because the creator showing the viewer or the reader a certain thing is very deliberate, right? Like, you're seeing those images, you are seeing these characters. Unless if you like splice it yourself, it is controlled. On the other hand, the speculation then births into crazy theories, and then people just run with it. That is on the fans. So if you want to blame the creators for implanting that thought versus people taking that thought and taking it to this extreme, that's why I would say they're both wrong, or both, in this case, culpable for that.
Yeah, not every case is equal. There's obviously going to be cases where like a lot of it was sort of just driven through like mass fan hysteria. Some of it might have been a bit more like the creators being a bit more complicit. But there's really no way to define like how much of the onus is shared by them versus by them. It's not a percentage game.
Yeah.
It's just, in the end, it's just easier to say that if you were creating something and you had that scene, you must have known something that you wanted to showcase to people.
Wink, wink, nudge,
yeah,
nudge,
exactly.
Right?
You wouldn't just be like so oblivious to it that you're like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't think that having two boys in Speedos swimming next to each other and hugging and all that and doing, borderline queer shit would actually end up, getting people to think that there's something queer about this series.
And then when it turns out that you psych them out, people get angry because you kind of led them on. Not that there's anything wrong with that, nor there's anything wrong with the other side as well, but it's like the expectations gets misconstrued essentially.
Not to mention, I feel like, especially with BLGL being like very, very specific subgenres and sub fandoms, that like the amount of fandom within those specific genres can get very intense because it's very like underrepresented.
Yes.
So therefore, like when you see somebody that in their eyes might be exploiting it, it can come off as like a massive betrayal
and very tasteless. And it just so happens that you're saying, okay, boys love, it's two guys or a bunch of guys into each other. Gay guys would like it, right? Girl love is the same for lesbians, right? Well, it's funny you say that because it's at least traditionally it's not true. Usually girl love is consumed a lot by men and boy love is consumed a lot by women. That's why you get the Fudanshi Fujoshi stereotype. One thing I also will say is I love girl love a lot. I read a lot of that. And funny enough, there's like 7 animes that's been announced as in the girl love genre that's coming out in the next couple of seasons. I don't even know how or why it all just showed up, but there's that.
The next best genre, man. Isekai's going down.
Yeah.
Girls' love is coming into town and taking everything.
Yeah, it better be. Okay. The next thing that I would say is even more uniquely anime and manga is the magical girl genre. So the magical girl genre, obviously the OG one is Sailor Moon, but probably the other one that's probably well known to the most people is Madoka Magica.
The fucked up version.
The fucked up version. And also, Madoka Magica is a very interesting anime because whether you like it or not, whether you think it's a good show or not, it really is like what they call genre deconstruction, a subversion of the genre, because it is almost everything that Sailor Moon isn't in so many ways, which is things are more fucked up or can be more fucked up than you think, rather than girl is super hero that saves the day and a bunch of girls band together to save the world.
To be fair, there were also a lot of darker themes that Sailor Moon, or like more sort of controversial themes that the original Sailor Moon manga and anime like covered, but because it crossed the waters, came to America, and then censorship laws started coming in.
Yep.
The original message, or at least the original depiction of Sailor Moon, is very different from what it is in the West. And now with Sailor Moon Crystal, I think things are a little bit more, without lack of a better word, more crystal clear.
Yes, exactly. I like Sailor Moon Crystal a lot. But the thing is that Madoka Magica is such a crazy phenomenon at the time that apparently, according to Anime Japan's survey in 2014, after Madoka Magica premiered, the magical girl anime dropped 60% as studios feared the comparisons. So it is just so crazy that one anime, because I think Madoka Magica is an anime original. I think so, yes. That it made such a splash that everyone is like, now fuck it, GTA 6 is showing up, in originally, right? They delayed it, but originally in the fall of 2025, nah, we're not going to release our game.
Oh, I mean that's why there's no more Saints Row.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, well, what can we do? Like, they've perfected the recipe. Like, we are just imitators at this point.
So let's not deal with it. And literally for the longest time, Madoka Magica was queen supreme in the magical girl genre. And I think the magical girl genre is one of those things that I don't know if there's an equivalent in either Western culture or... I mean, obviously there's like Power Rangers, but I guess all-female Power Ranger, I guess.
Well, to be fair, right? Power Rangers derived from Super Sentai. So therefore, it's like...
It's also from Japan,
yeah.
So...
I think, like... I mean, I didn't really watch a whole lot of Sailor Moon as a kid. I know my cousins did a lot. They fucking loved Tuxedo Mask. I think the one that, like, I saw the most of, but only because it was on TV and it was in between, like, Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z in Hong Kong at the time. Ojamajo Doremi. The 3 little witches, one that's pink, one that's blue, and one that's yellow. The yellow one wearing glasses. I mean,
no.
This is a little bit after your time.
Okay.
I mean, you were well on your way in middle and high school when I was still, in elementary school.
Our age is not that far apart.
Okay, Grandpa.
No, literally, our age is not that far apart.
Okay, fine. Fuck me. Okay, I'm sorry.
Shut up. But, okay, the magical girl genre is one of those things where it's like, imagine you're Frozen Elsa, but
It's every day, dude.
Yeah.
It's every year. There's always going to be some magical girl elements. It doesn't have to be like girls just doing magical things. It could just be an ensemble cast of girls with guns and shooting lasers.
Was it
and
Momentum Lily?
Momentary Lily.
Yeah. There's also, I think, another one called like Lily Assault that I watched like ages ago for one of our seasonals. That is essentially like that as well.
It's that. I mean, like it's not exactly the same, but it follows the same recipe.
I mean, even Type Moon decided to get in on that, right?
You have girls as the main ensemble, regardless of age. They could be children, they could be young adults, but they're all like very uniquely dressed and styled. So there'll be like a kudere, there'll be a yandere, there'll be one that's just like a dere, just
Yes.
absolutely normal lovey-dovey, or just not even an archetype, but they'll all have like beach blonde hair or pink hair, green hair, purple hair. There's always discernible features that like allow for people to sort of see like the quote unquote uniqueness within the troupe of girls in this group.
And one of the hallmarks, I will say, not for all magical girl genre shows, but a lot of them, is what we call the transformation scene.
Yeah.
Where the girl, lady, whatever, transforms into their super
Alter ego,
away from school or away from work to fight crimes and conquer evil. And
that was like one of the first major controversies of Sailor Moon, especially because the girls were not of adult age, yet they were transforming naked, even though they were silhouetted.
Yes. And they were like, there was like sparkling stuff.
They had very defined like adult female features despite being like younger than high school age. So obviously there was a big issue about it, but I think it was also just coming down to a lot of people kind of being a little, not overly, I can't say overly sensitive, because I don't want to just call people snowflakes for not liking that stuff, because they have their right to not be okay with it. But at the same time, it's like I think you're kind of just missing the point.
I also think that when you are an adult and looking at it, you see it very differently than when you are a teenager and watching it, because you probably weren't even thinking that deep or that grim, right?
Oh, I mean, I could absolutely imagine if you were like in middle America and you were watching like anime for the first time in like the mid 90s, and the first thing you were watching was a transformation scene of Sailor Moon, and then your parents come in just like, what the fuck are you watching? You know?
Yeah. So, but magical girl genre is
a mainstay,
and it's
it's historical.
It's unique too. And I don't think, I mean, to this day, I love Sinful Gear. It will ride and die with Sinful Gear. But our next entry on the surface, going all the way into love interests, is harems and reverse harems. I think, of course, what is harems is essentially multiple love interests. And those harems, there's the word that exists outside of anime and manga, for sure.
Yeah. Now, specifically, this is not just like an industry term, but it's also a historical term in that harems themselves usually mean a singular male character along with multiple female love interests. Thus, the harem genre itself would follow that specific kind of character makeup. The reverse harem would be the reverse. Female central singular character with multiple male love interests.
Now, but in anime and manga, though, I would say, for example, in Apothecary Diaries, where it's about, Imperial China, the Chinese emperor would have multiple wives. That's just historically the way it was.
Yeah.
But and even though they are like a harem, it wouldn't be classified as a harem in like anime and manga terms. You know what I mean?
Because culturally and historically, that wasn't what it was. It was a king of his court along with his beloved empress and the concubines that lived in the kingdom itself.
I think there's also like a HBO show that I used to watch way back when called Big Love, with a bunch of Mormons, and they have multiple wives and that's kind of stuff. So
so like harem does not mean like king, court, concubine, does not mean like polygamy. It's not like all of them are related or unrelated. It's just like we just keep them separate, because at that point you're just confusing the shit out of this thing.
So things like quintessential quintuplets. That's a harem.
Monogatari series is a harem for sure.
Yep. 100 Girlfriends is 100% a harem.
I mean, yes. Date Alive, another harem series. Then you go into the reverse harem. I think the most famous one, at least contemporary-wise, would be Ouran High School Host Club, which I absolutely love.
I think Romantic Killer was on Netflix in 2022. I watched it, and I really liked it as well. Reverse harems are also everywhere. I think Villainess leads to Doom, that the comedy one, which I actually will get into for our next entry. But harems and reverse harems, which I would say historically was a thing, now maybe less so, although I would say gender fluidity and people, as long as they are consensual, like who gives a fuck, right? But reverse harems and harems are kind of like a tag or a genre within anime and manga.
If you want something that's a bit contemporary and that's not 100 girlfriends, look no further than Cafe Terrace and its Goddesses.
Yep,
that one is like primo ecchi harem.
Yep, there you go. The next one is an offshoot of the Isekai genre that I actually really like, so that's why I'm having an excuse to put it here. The Villainess Otome subgenre. So it recently has a surge in popularity, such as recently From Bureaucrat to Villainess, My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom, Seventh Time Loop, Tear Moon Kingdom, and I think the most heretical Last Boss Queen from Villainess to Savior. I think Villainess 99 was also another one recently.
Oh, level 99?
Yeah. All of these are what is called the Villainess subgenre or the Villainous Otome subgenre. I think was there one like Kobayashi?
Wait, level 99, level 999. That one's a Villainous Otome.
It's a Villainous one.
My Love Story with Yamada-kun at level 9. I don't remember.
No, not that one. That one is about video games.
Yeah, that's a video game.
Villainous 99 or something. It's like this kudere looking girl.
Remember? I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the demon lord. That one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yes, I remember now.
The horse carriage that was really bad.
I remember when it was like they were during a school congregation, and then a horse carriage comes in, and then afterwards they settle everything, and it's like, I must not let anyone know that I am actually the hidden boss of this. I remember now.
And then she touches the globe. Yeah. So why is this Villainous Otome subgenre or Villainous subgenre popular?
Wish fulfillment.
Yes. It's essentially an offshoot of, if I am the bad guy traditionally and I'm given a second chance to make good such that I don't either die or I just want to be a better person, this is my second chance at life. This is my second chance to do good because I don't want to either die like I'm supposed to be
or be the one true villain.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is one of those things where it's like, how is it possible that such a genre exists? Well, it does. And it's one of those subgenres that I think we're just going to see more of until we see less of it. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's just par for the course, right? You see more until you see less.
Yeah.
But I think like the thing that drives this genre so much more nowadays than before is that we're in a time, at least like in the last 10, 15 years, where we're becoming more accustomed, even more wanting to see series, regardless of it being anime and manga, it could be any sort of genre or any medium, where female main characters are becoming more mainstay. And that's something that we've come to accept and also enjoy way more than we did 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I think nowadays when writing, female characters are now not one-dimensional,
It's not as simple as, female character must mean now it's geared towards women. No, that's not the case. If that was the case, then that means that nobody would like Standalone Complex.
Yeah.
Nobody would like Ghost in the Shell, right? Makoto is her name, Makoto, right? Yeah, she's literally one of the best characters written of all time, and it should not matter whether or not she's a woman.
In fact, you could say, in a way, because it's the ghost in the shell could be female or male, it doesn't matter.
It's the message, right?
It's the message, it's the character, right?
And that's kind of what the message within Villainous Otome is. It's not so much that you want to decide whether you like a female main character or not. It's more just this person is born into or transported into a world where they have a lot of shit going against them, and they need to do whatever they can to try and straighten things out. Otherwise, they've seen how this game plays out.
Yes.
They know that the villain does not win in the end. The villainess does not win in the end. or they just meet some real tragic shit along the way. So as a quote-unquote good person, how do they flip their fortunes?
Yeah, and not just that, but you might think, oh, so it's just a girl into another girl's body.
No.
Well, from bureaucrat to villainous is...
It's a fucking like old-ass dude, man. It's a salaryman who's a dad, and his daughter is also a massive Otome game fan. That's why he knows about all this shit. And he's like, I guess instead of being all ladylike and villainous, I'm just going to be very courteous and proper, like any gentleman would. And it ends up being very good for him or her.
And I think it's hilarious, the show. So
just be a dad. Do dad shit,
and
man.
just be good, you know? So
the next one is fucking crazy, but go on.
So anime and manga, among many things, decides to look at objects and animals and go, what if we can fuck with that? And Moe Personification or Anthropomorphism, which is essentially objects and concepts that are adapted into cute girls, is a concept in anime and manga that is so weird to explain to a third party. I don't even know how to explain it.
To give sort of like a breakdown, it's best to talk about the series themselves. So
Yes.
you have Azure Lane, which is a tower defense game, and they're sort of represented through girls who are defending shit. You've got Italia, which is essentially countries during the Second World War, but anthropomorphized as actual humans. So then you have the nation of Germany or the nation of Japan personified
As a person, yeah.
And you have Kantai Collection, which is warships as girls. You have Uma Musume, which is horse girls who are running like derbies and horse races.
And kimono friends, who are basically animal girls. So,
I mean, I just need to figure out, like, when that person was like, oh, that tank, dude. It'd be really cool if they were cute and I can fuck it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least, like, I can adore it, right? Or what if it turned into this cute thing?
Yeah, not everything has to be like fuckable. That's an over and lazy simplification of what this Moe personification. It's more just looking into something and turning it into something that is a bit more relatable. Yet there is like absolutely no reason to make it relatable. Like, I don't know why I need to know about warships, but Kantai Collection has my interest. I don't know why I even cared about horse racing, because I only go to horse racing events once a year, but then you have girls running as horses. Now you got my interest. Look, the Second World War was a really, really fucking bad time. But what if you introduced one of the countries as a tsundere?
Yeah. And then have the relationships between other countries played out kind of like how it is in history.
You got Italia Axis powers.
So the thing is that, I don't know, like, there has to be like a soda anime at some point where it's like, this is Coke and this is Sprite, but as two cute girls.
At that point, lawsuits.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. But okay, maybe instead of Coke, they call it Joke. And instead of Sprite, they call it Light. I don't know. Fucking, I don't know.
Light and Joke.
Like and Joke, right?
Okay.
So, again, is there a lot to say about Moe personification and
I was
performance?
a salaryman in my previous life, but now I am reborn as Wuck Donalds. in my pursuit of defeating the Burger King.
The Devil's a Part-Timer, Part 3, the reincarnation of
Wuck
Donalds. Okay, so, again, there's not a lot to say other than to say it's a thing and it's a big thing, and that's it.
It doesn't happen as much nowadays, but I think it's just because there's an oversaturation of other genres where there's a reason why this is on like the second level and not the top level, because it's kind of fallen a bit more into obscurity, but if you know, then you know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a reason why people still pay thousands of dollars a year just to play Uma Musume on their phone.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ, they lose a shit ton of money playing those gacha games. All right. Will, should we take a break or should we move on?
Let's take a little bit of a break.
All right.
We've basically talked for an hour about things like what what different types of demographics there are for anime and manga, why there's a plethora of isekais, how the magical girl genre is still going strong even to this day, despite debuting almost 40 years ago. And I didn't know that you can make tanks cute and sexy.
But here we are.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll go into the darker depths, or at least the more obscure terms, definitions, genres, and themes of anime and manga. We're back with the second half of this episode of the Good Anime Palette Podcast. I hope your minds and brains and realities have been blown to shit after Jason has talked about the different subgenres, themes, topics, and definitions within anime and manga. But hold your horses. We've only gone over the first and second level. We're going to go even deeper and dive into some of the themes, definitions, and topics that you may or may not know that is very much part of the world of anime and manga. So, Jason, we're now at the third level, traditionally known as the darkness. Mm-hmm. This is if you were to look into the more obscure, the more controversial areas, this is the part where we're getting into the unknown. We're getting into things that are in the dark depths where people may not venture into. They might have some glimpses or some surface level knowledge of it, but they really don't know much else other than what the word itself is. So, take us away, bring us into the darkness of this infotainment that is the definitions, themes, and genres of anime and manga Iceberg.
All I have to say to Will is Princess Jellyfish, and our next entry into the third layer, the first one of the darkness, is cross-dressing and the gender bender genre. So, cross-dressing, hey, if you're into that, awesome. If you're into gender benders, I like Freaky Friday style, awesome.
More often than not, and especially like in real life terms as well, the term cross-dressing usually means male dressing as female,
like a drag race, drag queen type of scenario.
RuPaul, or like
I think I only know RuPaul for the most well-known one.
Yeah, RuPaul's Drag Race. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's great.
Super popular. Actually, you know Dimension 20, right?
Yes.
So Dimension 20 did a series with some of the top drag queens of RuPaul's Drag Race, and they did a D&D series with them, and it's fucking awesome.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
It's super fucking cool.
I mean, D20, Dropout TV, they're really good. But here, in cross-dressing and gender bender, we go through terms like otoko, I can never pronounce it.
Otokonoko.
Yes, which stands for like male daughter or male girl. So, yes, it's a bit literate in terms of literary definition, but it is essentially a male who dresses up as a female or equivalent. And
otoko being male and noko being ko being shortened for women, for female.
Yeah. So you might go, okay, but like that's so obscure and niche, right? You'll be like, well, have you seen Your Name?
Have you seen Rama Half? Rama Half literally is a guy where I think it's like if he dips into hot water, he becomes a girl, and then when he dips into cold water, he flips back to being a guy.
I don't know if it's hot water for girl or hot water for guy.
Basically,
but yes,
the change in temperature
yes.
determines whether they are a blue-haired boy or a red-haired girl.
Exactly, and I think there is another one called Oni Mai, I'm Your Sister, that was in winter 2023.
That one was fucking weird. That was a weird show.
So, to be clear, the ones that we just mentioned is not cross-dressing. It's what we call gender bender, which is essentially the gender of two characters are flipped.
Yeah, boy in girl body, girl in boy body.
Yes.
Much like, for example, in Your Name, right? Whenever they go into their little dream sequence, the girl in the countryside then gets transported into the body of the boy in the city. And the boy in the city gets transported into the body of the girl in the countryside. And they start learning that there is like a string of fate that connects them, and they have to figure things out, but they realize they're in different timelines. Oh shit, I spoiled the fucking movie.
And there's a comet.
Yeah.
There's a meteorite, something.
They're all going to die unless, they find out why they keep switching into each other's bodies without, like, any of the perverted sexual shit. And even though the first thing that the guy does is take off their panties.
No, it's...
Oh, yeah,
it's the
touch the boobas.
Yeah. because, we are adults, right? We're kids. We're dudes. Yeah, anyways. So, gender bender is essentially almost like a Freaky Friday situation where you leave your body and either go into another body, or you are a guy one day and then all of a sudden, magically, you are a girl in another day. On my anime list, they don't call it as a gender bender. They call it magical sex shift.
Yeah.
Which I think is, sure.
It's just like, look, we understand what you're doing, but like, whether or not you're trying to censor it or you're trying to soften it, like, I feel like gender bender is already like on the nose enough. Like, it literally is the bending of genders. When you say like magical sex shift or magical gender shift, like, who are you kidding, dude? We know what the fuck this is. The girl's got a dick now and the boy's got a vagina now. Like, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Good for you,
There's nothing magical about it. It just happened, right? Stop trying to complicate things. Mal.
Mal. But what I would say, though, is the more popular of the two is cross-dressing. And I don't know why that's the case. All I know is that it happens more often than the gender benders.
I mean, senpai is otokonoko, okay? Straight on the nose.
Summer 2024 anime. But you might go, okay, but these are like obscure shows, right? Then you go into Demon Slayer Entertainment District arc in winter 2022.
Where one of the main demons is a cross-dresser. I think it was the main demon, right? Or was it
no, they had to... The three guys had to dress up as geishas.
Oh, right. Oh, remember differently. Yeah.
To infiltrate.
Yeah. So there's that one. Then there's also Maria Holic. There's Princess Jellyfish. That one's super famous, but unfortunately it's kind of fallen by the wayside just because it's relatively... At this point, it's almost a classic. The biggest example, we already mentioned this before in terms of the reverse harem or in High School Host Club, where the main female character essentially dresses up as a boy in a boys... or like a boys' host club.
Yeah. And then there is How I Intended an All Guys Mixer, Fall 2024 by Asahi Productions, which is essentially a bunch of ladies dressed up as dudes in what is essentially a butler cafe. Then there's Blue Period, which is the male main character's good friend who looks like a female is actually a male. And the struggles that he has to deal with in terms of being a girl on the outside and looking like a girl, but actually being a guy. That kind of stuff. Cross-dressing, in my opinion, is very much in these shows as a prominent theme and is explored in such a way that I think you rarely don't get to see.
Yeah, but I think it's like if you really want to sort of dig deeper, right? Like what purpose does the cross-dressing element present in not in these specific anime, but like within like as a tool to be used in anime and manga? Is it more sort of like, is it simple just comedic purposes, which I feel is extremely lazy?
Well, in Entertainment District Arc, it was used as that kind of.
Yeah, but again, at the same time, it's like if you were to introduce any sort of like deep philosophical social elements into Demon Slayer, at that point you're just like,
that's not Demon Slayer.
Why?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, I'm here just to see people slaying demons. That's the whole point in Demon Slayer. But then when you go into, for example, like or in High School Host Club or Blue Period or Princess Jellyfish, like I feel like those ones there's a bit more of a significance as to why there is that cross-dressing or the use of cross-dressing in those specific anime series.
I think I'm not so sure with Princess Jellyfish.
It's about identity in the
yes,
end, right?
Which is, it's less about being a male to a female or the other way around, but it is, I am not who I am when I take the wig off and I take the skirt off. I am someone else completely different. And I don't have to worry about being associated with that one person that, you know, has
it's
trauma
almost like
or
it's almost
baggage.
like it's almost like their superhero costume when they can essentially put away all their vulnerabilities and be the confident self that they really are.
Yeah, and I honestly think that and I think the reason why the cross-dressing again, I'm not a cross-dresser. I do not know the strifes and the struggles or the meanings behind it other than to know that this phenomenon exists. Maybe it is also to figure out sort of who you are, and if that means that you wear clothing that is usually not designated by society to tell that you should wear.
I mean, that's pretty much the core of Princess Jellyfish.
Right? Like, sometimes, I think Princess Jellyfish in the very beginning was like, the guy was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to wear it. I don't give a fuck. And then he just really likes to wear it, and then he just starts wearing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it just came from a place of maybe anger and frustration, and then eventually becomes something that is so important to them that it just evolves into this own thing, right? And I think it is such a hard, topic for me to broach because I don't have the faintest personal experience with it. And I don't really want to diminish someone's journey or someone's identity, but I can tell you for a fact that I've watched a lot of them, and most of the time, it is either played off as comedic for, a Demon Slayer purposes, as play for laughs, but then the huge majority of it, there is like a very significant
like sociocultural
reason.
Elements to it, where it's like self-identification, it's finding self-worth, it is sort of being able to break out of their more neat, like more sort of shy shell, and finding power that they would not have had if they had stayed in their original guise.
Yeah, like for example, I read the manga How I Intended an All Guys Mixer. I didn't watch the anime other than the first episode, so I don't know how the anime goes, but it's about a bunch of guys that really likes these girl counterparts, but they are dressed up as really gorgeous dudes as their job in a butler cafe, but they're the same person. So it's like, am I into a guy, or I'm into a girl, or I'm into just the person? And is there something wrong with that? And I think that is a very powerful topic to discuss and tackle. And at the end of the day, the person is just a person. It doesn't matter how they look. And I think that's the thing with gender benders and cross-dressing, is just trying to also understand the other side of the equation, or understand the other gender, the other side of the coin, and trying to reach sort of an understanding with each other or within themselves. So, I think cross-dressing and gender benders is not necessarily unique to anime and manga, but its prevalence, I think, is very unique within anime and manga. That it just is everywhere all the time, and I think is a really good thing. But let's go into our next entry, which is something that I think Will and I really like nowadays, which is what I would like to call the salaryman, admin, mundane, useless skill isekai genre.
This is like the ultimate wish fulfillment, in which you just work at your desk, or you are already in this fantasy world, but you have the lowest ranked or lowest rated skill. Like you are an appraiser, or you are in some cases, you are a cleric, and all you do is heal.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, clerics are fucking OP.
Yeah. Yeah. Also,
there's I told you before, as an aside, I told you the game that I've been playing right now, Knights in Tight Spaces. There is a cleric class, and they are the best class.
Really?
They're fucking OP. They hit hard, they heal, they do magic. They just are not easy to kill.
Unstoppable.
And that's what you'll see in this specific type of subgenre of isekai. Essentially what you'll have is the archetypal male-female character. It doesn't really matter what the genre is.
Yeah.
They just live a life of mundane, boring stillness. Nothing exciting happens, or they are in a traveling party, or they're part of a guild, and they go and do quests, but because of how low they are in the totem pole,
or less appreciated,
they just don't get any regard whatsoever. They're just left to do like scavenging hunts and stuff like that. So if the main party goes and kills like a group of a pack of like werebats or werebears and whatnot, okay, healer, go loot them. It's like, well, I mean, don't you need me to heal you up? No, you're fucking. Do you see us? We don't have a single scratch on us. Why would we need? Go do your fucking job, man. You fucking useless piece of shit. Oh, guess what? Another horde of werebears comes in and wipes everyone out except for the cleric.
Because it turns out that the reason why they survived in the first place was because of the healing skills that no one appreciates in the party. Or it is, hey, all I know is this admin. How I know how like crop rotations work in Realist Rebuild the Kingdom. How is that useful? Well, it turns out very much useful in this particular instance, where you have to now run a country from the brink of destruction to now being prosperous. There is tons of that. farming life in another world is very much like that, where all I want to do in another world is just farm, bro. I don't care about like all of this and all of that. Or it turns out it comes to you naturally because of your farming skills. Or was it Handyman Saito?
Oh yeah,
Handyman in another world, or I don't know if it is an isekai, but it is. I know how to lockpick. I know how to repair stuff, and now
it is an isekai because it's Handyman Saito in another world.
Oh, okay, thank you. So then it is represented as the thing that maybe you do. Maybe it's like even accounting is a very good example where
appraisal.
Appraisal, where it's like, oh, this thing that is useless or underappreciated or has no reason to be as OP as it is, ends up being the thing that makes you great, famous, well-known, and gives you all the respect that you deserve. I think this happens quite recently, a lot of it. Like what we had, the Salaryman Isekais, Handyman Saito, the appraisal. I think there's like a third season of, what was it? The guy, not appraiser, but there's another one that is about appraisal that has a third season that I watched.
Doesn't matter.
It's like aristocrat. I was born as an aristocrat, but I used my inspection skill to whatever appraisal skill. Anyways, the point is that is something that is within the isekai genre that is very much unique and a subgenre that I don't really see anywhere else. That much, at least. Yeah.
I think the only thing that is somewhat relatable, even though they're not even of the same genre, would be Zom 100, where you are just like an everyday person. You're just a student, and all of a sudden there is a zombie invasion, and you're like, fucking awesome. What am I going to do now? Right? Whereas like
right.
It's just it's that level of down to earth relatability where this isn't a person that has superpowers or they're like highly regarded in their company or just well recognized as an amazing person. They are just any run of the mill NPC, and they are now the main character. I think that's what people will be drawn to, even if it is, for example, like aristocrat from another world, or how realists rebuilt the kingdom, right? That kind of shit where it's like you're not meant to be overly excited because they portray themselves as super simple people. They just know they took a civics class, or they know how to do urban planning, or they've taken an accounting course, and it just so happens that in this specific world, that skill is very much revered, and now they get a chance to live a life that they never had because back in their original world, they were just in the lower rung of society. And that's, I feel like, why people have that sort of escapist wish where they can see like, you know, like I'm just like that person. I'm working in a job where I feel underappreciated, or I feel like I'm not reaching my full potential, and so I want to watch an anime or a series, or read a series that has this person do the things that I wish I could do.
Yeah.
Because realistically, this shit would never happen.
Yes.
You get hit by a truck, you die. Okay?
When you kill people, they die.
Yeah, don't expect to be transported into a world where your fucking obscure skills are going to be useful.
Okay, Will, but playing devil's advocate, we never know if that happens.
Oh, dude, don't do that to me.
Okay. So, the next entry I kind of highlighted red for Will.
Yeah.
It essentially is like, I don't really know exactly if they're both one entry or they're kind of the same thing, which is obviously anime is made by animation studios. But there are certain identities of these animation studios that we would see time and time and again for certain types of shows or for certain types of traits.
More often than not, whenever you see a new anime get announced and you see what genre is and what kind of plot line it will have, you can kind of narrow it down to like 2, maybe 3 studios that will probably be in the front line to produce it.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a big time shonen, or in some cases like a little seinen leaning, it's probably going to be Madhouse or Mappa.
Yeah.
And more recent times, you would get some Bones to do it as well. If it's going to be like a visual novel adaptation,
it will be Ufotable.
Probably Ufotable.
Yeah.
Right? If it's going to be a rom-com, JC Staff.
Yeah. And I think there is, for example, PA Works is really known for a lot of anime original shows
that are usually like in a female workplace setting.
There's like Sakura Trick, there is Shirobako, there is Aquatopia on the White Sand, and then there is another show now that actually we didn't cover for our anime seasonal because it premiered after our episode recording, was Food for the Soul, which I think is which is really good, by the way, and also Mono, who is not done by PA Works, but is done by the Yuru Camp people that I think you should watch. Side note, you should really watch those two shows. Anyways, with studio, I'll always think of like the Grimm Brothers fairy tale, what they did for Netflix.
Basically, a lot of dark or high fantasy stuff you will find with studio.
Ancient Magus' Bride, so on and so forth.
If it's going to be like some crazy sci-fi things that are just really weird, or like a bit more sort of like international Western takes on anime, you'll find Science Saru behind it.
And the next studio, Science Saru, is doing Ghost in the Shell, so that's going to be interesting too.
And I think if there is there are literally only two studios, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that have the power to make you fucking cry, which is A1 Pictures and Kyoto Animation.
Yeah, I would say Kyoto Animation is a lock. I would say A1 is a lot more.
I'm only saying that because they made Anohana.
Hana, yeah, I know, but hey, Anohana does carry so much weight, though. I have to be honest.
I think like in terms of the identities of animation studios, it's never like this studio only does this or this studio only does that. But I mean, like there's some that are a bit more obvious, like 3 Hertz. They mainly really only do originals. Back in the days, Gonzo would basically do a lot of originals too.
Tezuka Productions nowadays does a lot of seinen, for better or for worse. They legitimately do a lot of seinen.
If there's a lot of like incest, faux-cest, or a lot of like age gap shit, then it's probably going to be
Studio Mother
or Project Number 9.
Yeah, Studio Mother, Project Number 9. I think
or Passione. Used to be. Passione's gotten a much better in terms of like diversifying their repertoire.
I mean, Passione did Muroko-chan, and they did what was that horror series?
I mean, they also did Wolf and Spice.
Spice and Wolf.
Spice and Wolf, yeah. Spice and Wolf. Yeah.
What was that?
Higurashi?
Yeah, they did that too. So it doesn't mean that, like, for example, if I say Gainax or Studio Trigger, you would think crazy action.
But you know the pose.
But you know it. You know it. So you will know these studio names, but you might not know that that's what they're known for, or you might not know that that's their shtick, if you will.
Yeah, look, the things you'll always know is that if it's going to be dark fantasy, it's probably going to be with studio. If it's going to be really musical, really beautiful, and also like melancholic, it's probably going to be Kyoto Animation. If it's going to be something that is produced over time and people don't get paid well, then it's going to be MAPPA.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, these are identities, right? And unfortunately, that's what they've made the news for. So I'm sorry if I have to say it about MAPPA, but hey, MAPPA don't just make bangers. There's a reason why they're able to produce Chainsaw Man and Hell's Paradise and all the other crazy, like, big story blockbusters, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And going off of that, what if we're getting super meta and we talk about anime and manga about anime and manga?
I think it goes beyond just anime manga about anime manga. I think it's also just studios or producers wanting to highlight aspects of the production process or like their experiences working as directors, working as producers. So if we want to like talk about series that specifically do that thing, you can't look further back than Look Back. Again, no pun intended. Bakuman for manga, Shirobako for anime. Those ones are pretty much not like for like, but like it gives you like small little glimpses of what it's like to be a mangaka or what it's like to work production side of an anime production. And then of course there's also like within the anime or within the manga itself, you'll have people who kind of do little meta quips of like the industry, like maybe like inside jokes or fourth wall breaking, stuff like that, where it's like, we did this because we know you like it. When it's like they'll say that right before they introduce a beach episode.
Yeah. Or for example, I think one thing was for Studio PA Works, when they did Shirobako, there was a scene or I think an arc where they were short-staffed and there was this one girl who I was really innocent sitting next to the veteran who had to like animate a shit ton and like was losing her mind. And apparently in real life, actually, PA Works was facing short-staffed and was facing like hiring issues. So it was just like meta upon meta upon meta commentary.
One of the things I liked most about Shirobako was that one episode when you had the two directors arguing, and then one guy storms out, "How fucking dare he try and use 3D for this? You know 3D fucking sucks." And I'm just like, bro, you drop him truth bombs right here, man. Fuck 3D.
Yeah, except the end of that episode, they compromised.
It's like, you know what? No, I think we can use a little bit of 3D, even though it looks like shit. Yeah, you know, even though I think that 3D takes a lot more work than 2D, I agree. We should mix some 2D and 3D together. Yeah, I hate you, but let's work together. Yeah, I never respected you anyway, but let's do this.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah, that legitimately was a Shirobako episode, no doubt. So, I mean, Bakuman, we talked about it quite a bit. Will and I really should finish Bakuman.
Season 3 has been on the fucking to-watch list for 6 years now.
But I have to say that that one arc about the that ends up in that
yeah,
hospital.
that really irked me a lot.
Because it really highlights the other side of a meta commentary, which is sometimes that might not be the best message to give.
Yeah. Let's round out the third layer by going deeper and deeper into the slice of life genre.
Yeah. Now, we mentioned Iyashikei a lot, and I'm going to mention it again because I really do feel like it encapsulates a very unique aspect of anime and manga that is a subgenre of a subgenre of a subgenre.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Iyashikei literally means healing.
Soothing, yeah.
Iyashikei figuratively and visually means nothing. Nothing fucking happens.
Yes.
It is the slice of life of slice of life. You cannot be more slow-paced. You cannot be more dull. You cannot be more non-consequential, non-active. It is just straight up two people walking on a sidewalk. They look up at the stars. The stars are brighter tonight. Maybe tomorrow when they're brighter, we can go stargazing. We should do that. Oh.
Kono banga wa.
I don't have my telescope. Don't worry. You can use mine. Wow. The stars are so bright. Stargazing in another world.
And then a guitar comes in, and then all of a sudden you see credits, right?
And then the guy who's on the guitar, it turns to be just some hermit that lives under a bridge. He's like, I remember my days when I went stargazing. This is a story about two girls who discovered their love for stargazing. That's what Iyashikei is. It's just as mundane as possible. But I think I always say things where it's like it's boring, it's dull, it's mundane. But when referencing Iyashikei, those are positive words.
Yeah. Like we're talking like Natsume Book of Friends, Mushishi, Nonon Biori, where these shows have all those features that Will mentioned, and they're accurate, but it is really good.
It's like when we talk slice of life can have small elements of romance, of drama, of comedy. There can be tiny, as long as they're not the overriding genre. In Iyashikei, there's nothing. There's no confrontation. There's no comedy. There's no laughs. It's just people doing people things.
And somehow it works.
Do you want to watch people like Slow Loop? In a sense, is as Iyashikei as it can be.
I would say
in terms of like cute girls doing cute things.
Yeah, but I would also say it has the fishing element, which gives it a bit more meaning rather than in Iyashikei, right?
Yeah. Eurocamp, again, there's the camp angle, but really, they're not even camping most of the time. They're talking about buying the right gasoline to keep their lamps going.
Or like getting that pine cone that for some reason goes,
talks to people. Yeah. Hey. Hello. Konnichiwa. Itai.
And then when you get burned, you go, oh no.
Or maybe it's like, hey, I live in a boony town in the outskirts of Japan, and this school, for some reason, has all grades mixed together, and I'm a new student, but my classmate is 5 years younger than me. What do? I guess I'll just go to school. And that's episode 1 of Nanamburi.
Yeah. And on your way home, you hear the little girl, Reina, going like, nap, 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 and marches home, and it's the cutest thing ever. But yeah, that's Iyashikei. All right, Will, we have gotten now into the abyss.
Oh, I kind of saw what the first one was.
There you go.
I'm loving it already.
The fourth layer, where the weirdest, most obscure, most niche thing. And for you, Will, specifically, I started with this.
NTR. Netorare or Netori.
It's So also known as NTR, what it essentially is
Cucking.
Yeah.
Straight up cuck porn.
So Netorare is essentially the guy getting cucked. Netori is the girl getting cucked. Wait. Fuck, I don't remember.
The cuck is the one that is being cheated on. So basically, like, in this sense,
Yeah.
where, for example, the girl is married to the husband,
Yeah.
and she ends up being
Unfaithful.
corrupted or sullied by someone else, then the husband is the cuck.
Yeah, and that's not Torare.
Yeah.
And then whereas the girl is being cucked is Netori. Yeah, and they're both colloquially known as NTR. And you might go, okay, that's just porn, right? Well, it is.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
It is a huge tag in like hentai and pornography. Absolutely.
But
It goes deeper than that.
it goes deeper than that. And I cannot, talk about NTR and not talk about probably the most well-known NTR high-rated trash series that I think Garnt is really, really into,
Yep.
and you are too.
Yes.
Domekano, Domestic Girlfriend. And
So good. It's such hot trash, but it's so good. So
now you have the platform. Go ahead.
I think what people would probably want to know is, why the fuck would people want to watch anime or read manga about people getting cucked? And I think you gotta remove yourself away from the word cuck itself and think more about the word love. In which case, the love that you have for somebody has been corrupted or been sullied by an external force. And therefore, you're seeing somebody go through the motions of whether they want to honor the love and trust that they have with somebody, or whether they will willingly break that trust. Or maybe that trust was always there and they never voluntarily broke it. It just so happened to be forced upon them.
Or it is broken, and then you piece it back together again to have a better tomorrow.
Yeah. More often than not, and I'm speaking in porn terms, I have no shame whatsoever in talking about it. In porn terms, most of the time, it's the woman or the man being in a broken relationship. Like their counterpart, their partner, just
Cannot
keeps them
fulfill
shit.
them,
They
yeah.
can't fulfill their wishes, or they're just not like physically present, and so therefore they yearn for that warmth, they yearn for that love, and they somehow manage to get it, but from an external force, whether it is a colleague or a boss or a friend that has come back into the fold.
And then going back to the original spouse and being like, hey, yo, do you want to sit next to me while I do this?
Yeah.
So
in the case of
Domekano,
guy meets girl, they fuck. Girl does not want people to know about this, so she pretends it doesn't even happen.
guy was cool with it at first.
Boy's mother remarries with girls.
No.
Oh,
Boy's
father remarries with girl's mother, and it turns out that girl also has a sister who is the teacher of the boy, who the boy is in love with. But because he can't reciprocate that love, he goes with the younger sister. But then when the older sister finds out, the older sister then induces hey, why don't you come with me instead? Oh, but this is so bad, so naughty. I'm your teacher. Oh, but you love it. But you're my brother as well. But we're not blood related. That's enough for me. Boom. It's bum uglies. Younger sister finds out. How dare you? I'm not mad at the boy, but mad at the sister. I love him. Why would you take him? It's that real fucked up sort of family love dynamic that people really like. I wonder why. Because it's fucking porn. It's as soft as it can be,
and it's trashy.
It's trash. People watch NTR because it's trash. But of course there's going to be people that want to go deeper into like the love thing. It's like, oh, the reason why they broke that trust is because the trust never existed in the first place, therefore they wanted to seek warmth and comfort in something that deserves to have that love and worth, when really it's me being like, girl have booby, guy have dick, come together. Okay. No work? Okay, guy go other booby. Boo boo. Oh, booby and booby say, hey, no, only one dick, mine. Okay, fine, you take, but he still love me. Okay, fine, then I have the dick on weekends, you have the dick on weekdays, and that's the ending of Domekano.
Okay, So in 2019, apparently, I don't know why Will decided to spoil it, but Domekano's manga ending.
I've talked enough about Domekano enough. Okay, maybe I never said the ending, but hey, look, it wasn't the exact ending.
Okay.
I kind of twisted it.
Sure. The point was that Domekano's manga ending apparently
so bad.
caused such a problem that it got the Tokyo Ghoul treatment of fans decided to burn the volume in protest, and on Twitter, #drop domestic nakanajo, which is domestic girlfriend, trended on 2019 worldwide, which is kind of crazy.
Kinda. I mean, the fact that you have this kind of manga, this kind of anime, realistically, this is complete garbage. This is hot shit. No
Except for one thing. The OP slaps.
Oh, dude, the OP is so good. It's one of those things where it's like the OP has nothing to do with the manga, of the anime.
It's
but
just
like,
piano. It's just
it's intense, right? The girl's singing and just screaming out of pain and love and whatnot, and then it fully represents what is to be at pain and in love. But then when you realize where the pain comes from in Domekano, you're like, bro, this is fucked up, man.
Yeah. So that's for you, Will.
Thanks, dude.
Yep.
Always a good opportunity to talk about Domekano. All right, what's next, dude?
Okay, so the next one is a little bit of a tough explanation. So,
okay, I haven't pulled out what the actual term means. I just pulled out the word itself. It's Mukokuseki.
Yes, and what it means is called the stateless art style, and it is by definition called the deliberate lack of ethnic features included in the character design of Japanese fictional characters. It literally means stateless, in other words, without nationality, though the term originally relates to a more abstract anime, and in this case used hyperbolically. So, for example, when you see a bunch of characters that are Japanese, how can you tell one from the other? What if there is, for example, someone who says that they're Russian?
There's a transfer student.
Yeah, but then actually the Russian doesn't look Russian. They just look
Japanese, but with blonde hair.
Yeah, or like white hair, right? In the Alia speak of Russian, right? White hair girl.
I keep forgetting that comedy series, Asobase, Asobase. Like the Russian girl there is also, no. She's not
Olivia.
Russian. She's not Russian. She is British.
Yes,
but
is it British or American?
She's British or American, but she doesn't speak English.
Yes, she sucks at English. Like her parents are good in English, she's not, but she's really good in Japanese. So this is one of those things where apparently when I say this, there you go one of two ways essentially. The first one is that these characters, you need to somehow tell them apart with each other. So you then use hair color. You can't do the slanty eyes or whatever, so you try to figure somewhere else out to distinguish all of them, basically. I'll be honest.
If they were all drawn with slant eyes, that'd be such a fucking problem.
Yeah, and if you think about it, right?
No, that's true. That's something that, like, people may or may not really think. I mean, I certainly don't think about it, in which case we're just like, when you watch anime and you see the characters and you hear them talk, you fully believe that this is all Japanese. I mean, it's a Japanese production based on a Japanese written story, set in Japan. Why wouldn't they be Japanese? But then you flip to something like Fate Stay Night, right? And then you have Saber there, and she has blonde hair, but she looks just as Japanese as all the other fucking characters. Yet she's not supposed to be Japanese because the story of King Arthur is not Japanese. So why do the facial features and the skin colors and whatnot like look similar to what you would deem ethnically Japanese, when really you look at these Japanese characters and you're like, what is ethnically Japanese features in an anime character?
Yeah. So things like, for example, in live action, when you hear the term used for whitewashing, for example, for Ghost in the Shell or similar types of properties, it's like Scarlett Johansson is Makoto, but she's not, Makoto. Like, what the fuck?
But then at the same time, it's like, yes, her name is Makoto Mitsuragi or...
Yeah, something like that. I mean, sure. Major.
Yeah.
Is it Mitsuragi? It sounds very, very close, if not exactly right.
Oh, sorry, no. Makoto Mitsurugi is a character from Sora to Omi to Uda. It's a different anime.
Oh shit, my bad. So
No, that was my bad too. I completely fucked up the pronunciation. The actual character, it was just call her Major.
Yeah, Makoto. I mean, that's also her for real name. So then the second kind of idea that you might think.
Motoko Kusanagi.
There you go. The second kind of way of thinking about the stateless art style is that, hey, I want to incorporate archetypal Western features into my Japanese show, but for marketing purposes so that I can cater to a Western audience, but I also don't really want to go all the way, so I'm just going to pepper it in kind of thing. And it is this thing that you don't really, because it's stateless, you don't really think about it when everyone is ubiquitous, right? Yeah. Everyone is homogenous.
I mean, when you have characters that have blonde hair, pink hair, green hair, you're just like, dude, that they're all Japanese. All Japanese people have green and pink and blonde and purple hair, right? Like that absolutely is not true.
But
right?
At the same time, if you were to represent, the general populace in Japan or in Asia, for example, everyone will be black-haired pretty much.
Yeah.
So is it then?
You got to find a way to discern who the main character is. You got to give them bright neon yellow hair.
Yeah. So in that case, what do you do? Do you just make everyone black hair? I mean, you could, or you could go this route, right?
I mean, at that point, you're just making the claim all anime characters look the same. And at that point, you're like, whoa, you're opening a real can of racist worms.
And that is the stateless art style and why that is so controversial, because you could really go one of those two ways.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're both right and wrong.
To be fair, though, right? Like, what we're talking about here is essentially like the depiction of like so-called Japanese characters and Western characters. But I feel like this wouldn't apply to characters that are black or of color.
Well,
yeah, I mean that itself is another sensitive topic.
I mean, it is. There is a section on this in here that I took out because that was, in my opinion, like way too far from what I originally want to talk about, which is...
But also, it carries way too much depth as well. Because
yeah.
At that point, you go into, like, people ideologies. You go into representation, into history. And unfortunately, most of it is pretty negative.
And all of it cannot be condensed in, like, 10 minutes.
Nor are we the ones to actually accurately talk about it anecdotally, because neither of us... Like, look... We are technically people of color, but if you present yourself in a world where it's Westerners, right? But if you're here in Hong Kong, we are the majority.
Yes.
We're 99% ethnically Chinese.
Yes.
Right? But then it's like, neither of us are black. Neither of us are people of color. We don't have dark brown skin. We don't have light brown skin. We just have skin. We just have skin within the Chinese world. So therefore, we would never be able to reciprocate what it means to have our skin color, our culture, our representation put on screen, and whether or not it fits how you feel you should be represented. So therefore, it's not really a place for us, but we acknowledge that there are difficulties in representing people of color in anime.
And it's not only a cultural, ethnicity issue. It is also one of probably production and character design and the need to differentiate the NPCs or the background characters with the foreground main characters. Like honestly, when you think about it, how are you going to distinguish the main characters from the supporting cast or from everyone else?
Give them blonde hair,
exactly, or colored hair, right?
Yeah, make them pink haired.
Yeah, exactly, and that's how they do that. And that you might not realize it, but there's actually a term for it, which is this stateless art style, and it is something that I didn't even know this name existed until I did research on it.
We're now reaching the hour 50 mark, and we are in the last layer, but I still see there's quite a few things.
Well, there's only like 3-4 more.
Okay, I like the next one, but this one, take it away, Jason.
So, in anime and manga, there is always a trope, and funny enough, in Bungo Stray Dogs, there is a very prominent one of these. The Brocon, Sis-Con, Incest / Wincest type of stuff. And we have a lot of that in anime and manga. Things like, what was it? Like My Stepsister is My Girlfriend or whatever. There was one that's like that.
Oh, is that the one which is, My Ex-Girlfriend is My Stepsister.
Yeah.
The Project Number 9 one.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden we live together or something. And then there was like, Days with My Stepsister, I think, is another one.
I mean, there's an element of it in Sword Art Online as well. Yeah, Days with My Stepsister. That's the one that was. No. My Stepmom's Daughter is My Ex.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Domekano is kind of like that.
Kind of. It is. It absolutely is.
So, Brocon and Sis-Con, though.
I mean, you don't have to be related to be brother and sister, dude.
So Brocon and Sis-Con, though, is a next step up because this is an obsession with your sibling, probably to the point and to the extent that you probably should not take it to that far.
I mean, love is thicker than blood, dude.
Yeah, and so...
It's completely fine to want to fuck your brother.
Yeah, sure. Say that to Cersei, right? From Game of Thrones, right? Jaime Lannister says hi. The point that I'm trying to make is, for whatever reason, even in Bungo Stray Dogs, of all places, there is a bro-con, sis-con relationship. I don't know why there's so much of it in Japanese anime, manga, light novel. Okay, well, lay it on me. What am I missing here?
Porn.
Sure. If that explains it all, then great. Okay.
It's a massive proponent of it. I mean, the fact that, like, again, shameless, it's a probably a top 5, top 10 tag within, like, the P-Hub, within, like,
there's no doubt. I mean, I understand that, like, the stepbro.
But again, it's like, I do want to try and separate, like, the worlds of, pornography and sexually explicit content with the world of anime and manga, because at that point, like, we're just painting the brush of, all hentai and all anime are the same, which is absolutely not true.
No. But one thing I will say, though, is, for example, in Bungo Stray Dogs is a very good example of there is just a girl, I think she's in high school, right? Mm-hmm. Who's the sister, and then the brother who works for the detective agency. And unbeknownst to anyone, for no particular reason, they decided so that they're really, especially the girl, is really into the brother. Like very much way beyond how good sibling or deep sibling relationship should be. And I don't understand why, but there's always one there. Or, like, there's, like, a sis-con where it's, like, the guy would go home into his room, and then there's, like, posters of his sister. And like,
is there a bro-con, sis-con thing going on in My One Hit Kill Sister?
What is My One Hit Kill Sister?
That's the one where they're in a fantasy world. It's in an RPG. And his sister is super overprotective, basically protects him. Yeah, basically the last line of the plot synopsis is basically having to deal with his sister's overbearing affection for him over, like, actually traversing the world of this RPG. I think there is a Brocon element to it.
I mean, it checks out to me. I mean, what you just said definitely fits that criteria, right? And also goes into, again, I put it as miscellaneous, but like the Shota lolly stuff, because it goes into the Brocon, sis-con, Onesan stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, to a certain level, like, I understand, like, having a younger sister or an older sister or a younger brother and older brother taking care of you and stuff like that, like the paternal, maternal kind of thing. I get that to a certain extent, but then the degree and the extent in which Japanese anime manga sometimes takes their characters to,
sometimes it's a bit too Freudian. It's a bit too it's a bit too Oedipus. I think, like, again, it's not one of those things where it's like, it happens in porn, so therefore it happens in anime and manga. I think it's what it is especially when it comes to, like, the literary means of entertainment media, whether you write fiction or you create manga and stuff, right? You essentially, like, if you lived in a world where you didn't have overlords censoring or watching over everything you do, then you technically do have the freedom to be able to recreate whatever fantasy you have. Mm-hmm. Therefore, having that freedom means that you can explore as many or as dark a taboo subject as you want it. And therefore, like, what more can you do within that world other than, NTR or Brocon, Sis-Con, Incest, or, in this case, like the Shota lolly stuff, right? Like,
yeah.
Because these things realistically will not fly in IRL. But when you start putting, like, images to a page and add words to lines and whatnot, then at that point, you could say it's sort of artistic freedom, it's freedom of expression, whatnot. And that's the thing too. People like to delve into the taboo. They want to go into the unseen, unheard, unknown.
Well, also, a lot of these types of shows, motifs, play it as comedy. The Bungo Stray Dogs Brocon Sis-Con plays it as comedy. The big brother in high school who is the class president has a really, really clingy little sister who will do whatever it takes to like get her older brother's affection or whatever.
Yeah, 90% of like the lolly, 90% of the NTR, well, not NTR, the
Shota?
Incest stuff,
yeah.
Shota stuff. It's mostly comedy.
Yeah. And you could say it's tasteless. You could say it's stupid and lazy. And in almost 95% of cases, you're right. But it's nonetheless there.
Yeah, the only time when it's not tasteless and it's not lazy is, Domekano.
Which is why everyone mentions it all the time, genuinely. Now, we go from the taboo to the cringe and the lame with Chunibyo, also known as 8th grade syndrome. Will, do you know what Chunibyo is?
Yeah, I do now.
So, Chunibyo literally translates as 8th grade syndrome, is essentially your emo, cringe, edgelord phase where like, oh, I covered my eye because if I revealed my eye,
my Sharingan will expose and everybody will die.
Yeah. Or, hey, if I just, do all the ninjutsus, I can then summon like a waterfall or whatever.
If you step any closer, I will summon the dark depths of the demon lord and consume you, that kind of shit.
Yeah, that subreddit or that like that tag of I am 14 and this is deep type shit.
Yeah.
This is literally Chunibyo. So you might go, Jason, what does Chunibyo have to do with anything? Well, because Chunibyo is actually an anime done by Kyoto Animation. And of course, Chunibyo itself, 8th grade syndrome, is a thing. In, for example, Psyche-K, there is the Chunibyo.
Yep.
The guy who is like, he tries to look like super suave with like the JoJo poses, and
because I think he essentially lives in a temple, and so therefore he deals with like the afterlife, he deals with demons, he deals with spirituality and whatnot. But realistically, none of that shit exists, unfortunately, in this world, and it's just Psyche-K himself just entertaining him, by doing all these magic tricks and all this alien shit, and actually leading him to believe that what he sees is real.
The reason why it's called 8th grade syndrome is because during that time, you're pretty rebellious. You have, it tends to sort of, these kinds of traits revolve. I mean, I don't know about you, Will, if you want to be honest or upfront about it. I wouldn't say I have Chunibyo, but I would have like similar kind of tendencies.
For me, it was more imagination run amok.
Yes.
When I recollect certain things that I experienced in life, I look back at that time and I'm like,
what the fuck was I doing?
Not even that. It's more just, did that actually really happen? Or was I such a cringy teenager that I imagined this thing happened that it became, in my mind, reality?
Right. And I think that is Chunibyo to a certain extent.
Yeah, because you're fabricating a certain situation when realistically you're just a teenager.
You're overthinking it. And some people grow out of it. In fact, I would say the majority of people, according to the definition, grows out of it, but some don't, or some.
Well, because for them, that is their reality. That is the way they see life, or that is the way they want to carry themselves in life.
And it's interesting because when you take it to that kind of really realistic level, it becomes like things like coping mechanism. It becomes like escapism, trying to dodge and run away from your traumas and things like that. Or it can be played as comedic as, oh, I bandaged up my arm because if the tattoos show, and you see it, you will go insane. Wahaha. And everyone's like, dude, let's just get away from this creep and fucking just grab lunch somewhere else. Holy shit.
Yeah, why are you sitting next to us, dude? Okay. We are getting pretty close to the 2-hour mark, and I see a couple more things here. Do you want to go through all of them, or is there one that you want to sort of round up this this fourth layer with? Because there is one which is like I've never seen before. The other one, absolutely, which is the Hikikomori and NEET.
Yep.
The phenomena of basically self-isolation,
social hermit,
anti-socialism. No. Anti-socializing, not anti-socialism. That's a completely different thing.
That's like a political
yes,
thing. Yeah.
Yes. Anti-socializing.
So, I will not end with that. I'll end with this one, something called Class S.
Never heard of this one.
So
this one is completely new.
This is so obscure that like only I think I know it, but a lot of other people probably don't know it.
Looking at this whole list, there were two things that I knew nothing about. One, which was the Mukokuseki, the stateless art style, and then this one, Class S.
So, Will, I have to...
Isn't there an anime called Class S?
No.
No, what's the one where it's like, sweet, sadistic, surprise.
Blend S.
Blend S. Okay, that's a different one then. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So, Class S is a semi-subgenre of girl love, shoujo ai, but in an extremely specific context. Also known as romantic friendship or affectionate friendship or passionate friendship. It is an early 20th century Japanese term that used to refer romantic relationship between girls.
Waseego.
Yeah.
Waseego being a Japanese-made English word or English phrase. So it's basically the Japanese expression using English words, but that phrase itself does not exist in standard English.
What do you mean?
So basically, the term you have here, Class S, is essentially a Wasoego term.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the class is like uses English words, exists as a Japanese phrase, does not exist in English.
Yeah.
We do not use Class S to mean anything. In fact, like when I see this, I actually have no clue what that means, other than maybe it is a specific type of class in a school.
No, but if you know, you know.
Now I'm learning. Yeah.
Because and also it typically focuses on senpai kohai relationships, wherein one girl is senior and the other one is junior in age.
Yeah.
I think probably the most well-known one of this is called Maria Watches Over Us, which has like 4 seasons of it in like the early 2000s, 2010s.
2004 or 2006. 2004. I think it's 2004.
And it's really popular. It's probably one of those. And it is a very odd subject to talk about because it contains a lot of things like, well, what the hell is romantic friendship? What the hell is affectionate friendship, passionate friendship? Is it just like friends with benefits? It's like, no, actually not. But it is like a love for each other that you grow out of, but you need each other to learn. And how it all stems, believe it or not, Will, was back in the day, in the early 20th century, they were all girls' schools and all boys' schools, right?
Yep.
There were very little co-ed.
There still are all girl, all boy schools.
Right. But in this particular case, back then, there was very little co-ed stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's all boys, all girls. So if we focus on the all girls side, people have to learn to love, essentially. And for whatever reason, and I guess from certain people that I actually met in person, I know this to be somewhat true, or at least it's a cliche or a stereotype, is that some people in all-girls schools eventually become lesbians because they
only interact with
girls and they only develop relationships then with girls. Some of them become romantic, some of them not.
That is such like a male fantasy thing where like all-girls school, dude, they all be fucking. They're all like, once you go to an all-girls school, all you do is become a lesbian, which is just like extremely wrong.
It's extremely wrong.
That's not true at all.
Now, that being said, anecdotally speaking, I do have a friend who went to an all-girls school. I actually know her. I went to school with her, and she has told me about how this is a thing, apparently, at least according to her upbringing.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that like this thing does exist. It's more just like it's not like fully representative of what an all-girl school is.
It's not the be-all, end-all,
exactly.
But that trope or that cliche does exist. So beyond that, there is romantic friendship in a sense that you need to get the skills as you grow up to be an adult to learn to love others. But because you're surrounded by girls, you can only but you're not into girls because you're not a lesbian, you do what is romantic friendship, which is this weird blurred line of you're kind of in this. You're kind of into another, but you're not.
See, the line is so blurred that the Wikipedia entry for Class S says that the S is an abbreviation for a wide range of things.
Yes.
The S could stand for sister.
Yes.
It could stand for shoujo.
Yes.
It could stand for sex.
Yes.
It could stand for schön, which is the word beautiful in German.
Yep.
Or it could also mean the S sound in the word escape.
Yes. All of that is true, by the way. I'm not even lying. I mean, obviously, because Will's reading from Wikipedia.
Yeah, so here it's like basically like, yes, in the most basic terms, it is a form of love between girls, but it's also distinct from like a romantic relationship, where like it's more describing platonic relationships based on friendship and close emotional bonds rather than sexual attraction.
Yeah, but in a way, because there's not sexual attraction, you get all of the aspects of love and romance, but without the physicality of it, or there is some of it, because you hold hands. There is a longing for each other,
more heart to heart than boob to boob.
I mean, look,
but I mean,
listen, as someone who reads Class S stuff, you'll be surprised. But usually, it is more emotional, and it is more about maturing into how to love people and each other. And it just so happens that the people around you are of the same gender. And in this case, it's mainly catered towards all-female cast, all-female setting. That is probably the most obscure girl love term that I could find, that I had to find an excuse to talk about, and I finally got it after 5 years.
I've never heard of it. And then when I looked up the Wikipedia entry for Maria Watches Over Us, also shortened to Marmite or Marimite, not Marmite, Marimite, because the full name is Maria Sama ga Miteru. The genres are Class S and Yuri, and that's the first time I've ever seen Class S as a genre tag.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Never heard of this shit, but it's cool to learn. I think like what we learned from today's Iceberg is that when you start to think that you understand a genre or a subgenre, dude, like that's you're not even close to reaching the source. Yeah, like dude. you think it's just boy love, girl love. You think it's just Yuri. You think it's just incest, wincest. No, there's even more depth to this. How about Class S, where it's like it's attraction to girls, but not sexually, but more emotionally.
Will, what if I were to break your mind as the last thing I will say before I go into show notes, which is a Class S scenario, but you're both sisters?
Is that an SS?
I don't even. Don't say that.
Is that an SS?
I mean, that's German. Don't say that. Don't say that. Dude,
is that an 88?
I don't even know, man. No, it just loops around and forever. I have no clue. But
yeah, we're not saying no SS to no. Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know how to recover.
I thought for a minute it's like, so Nazis are the super subgenre of anime, right?
Well, if you look at Hellsing, then yes.
If you look at, for example, season 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure,
then yes.
Yes.
So I guess it was always there to begin with. That is the end of anime Iceberg.
This was vastly entertaining.
It was so...
I had no idea what to expect, and I am very, very, very happy how this turned out, just because the fact that a lot of the stuff I already knew, but hearing it all over again and relearning it, and also learning some new shit, like Mukokuseki, Mukokuseki was crazy,
but it was always there in front of us, right?
Yeah,
like Iyashikei was always in front of us. I mean, things like Class S, okay, that is like the most obscure. That's why I left it to last, but. Yeah, I mean, these are all literally parts of anime manga light novels that I think are relatively unique, or at least are prominently featured in anime and manga that's not featured in any other medium. And that will wrap up our episode of the Good Anime Palette podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode. Please leave a rating or review if you can. We appreciate you nonetheless. If you want to reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com, GAPALETTE, all lowercase, all one word, using the handle @PaletteGood, capital P and capital G, all one word, or through our GAP website, www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Life is a Party by John Runefelt. Our break music is Chemistry Love by Swift7. And our outro music is Voyage by Pow. You can always support the music artists that we feature by listening to them on Spotify, Apple Music, or your music listening platform choice. And Epidemic Sound provides all of our royalty-free music. If you're interested, you can sign up using the referral link in our show description. Terms and conditions apply.
So get this, right? Imagine you are a villainess in an Otome game.
Yes.
But you are emotionally attracted to your senpai. But your senpai is also a tank. And you're both drawn in Mukokuseki style.
Okay. If you minus the Mukokuseki... Okay, the Mukokuseki style actually makes sense. If you eliminate the tank part, there's an anime for that. Yeah. It's called I'm in Love with the Villainess.
Yeah.
Which is a yuri about a kohai senpai where the main female character is isekai'd and the girl that she loves is the villainess of the... And she is blonde hair... I'm legit. I'm not lying.
All you're missing is some tanks. That's what I'm saying, right?
I'm not lying, by the way.
If you add tanks to this, I would watch the fuck out of that.
Hey, this is an anime series that was in fall of 2023. It's legit.
This is brand spanking new, dude. Not even 2 years old.
And I read the manga published in English by 7 Seas Entertainment. So I guess that is the anime and manga that really connects everything all together, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, like, are there elements of NTR in there?
I mean, probably. I don't know.
There's obviously some magical girl shit in there too, right?
I mean, there's magic,
and they're girls, Done. Okay.
So there you go. That's the answer to all.
I think. Basically, like what this all culminates into is that
you think you have it all figured out, but you don't.
But it's not even that too. It's the fact that like there's so much out there that you don't know. But the thing is, you've probably already watched it. You've probably already consumed it, and you think that, like, that's just what it is. It's just a simple, like, girl love romance. It's just a simple magical girl kind of thing. But really, like, you actually have been consuming something, like, subliminally. Like, it's just been shown to you this whole time without you knowing, and then when you find out later on, it's like, oh, fuck, like, I've been exposed to this thing the whole time. Now, thinking about this Class S thing, it's like, I probably have watched something about Class S within that genre, but I can't, for the life of me, name it at the top of my head. But it's just something that, like, as obscure as it sounds, it also feels like it's pretty commonplace in some romance stories that I've probably read or watched.
Yeah, or, like, within all of these different romances, there is one couple or one pair that is this type of romance, right? I think there's like, I don't know if we want to spend another 5 minutes talking about, but there were some that I would say are honorable mentions that almost made the cut. One of which I forgot because I deleted it, which was, we talked about it, Will, which is you have to say the name of your move to do it.
Yeah.
That was one of these kinds of weird trope things.
The Hadoken of anime.
Yeah, like there was literally a word for it, but I thought it was a really fast one and done, so I took it off.
Like, it's not enough to do the hand movements. You also gotta shout Kagabunji no Jutsu.
Yeah, and it can't work if you don't do the whole thing, right?
It's like, it's not enough to have the Sharingan eye. You have to say Sharingan.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing happens. Your eye is useless.
There was a trope where it was basically narrating the thing that just happened, but in slow motion of the thing, and how crazy intricate it was. That was also, like, there was a term for that.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the term, but like, this is not like uniquely anime, but also like in a lot of different medias where it's like you're up against the big bad, and the big bad overpowers you. But before they kill you, they reveal all of their evil plan to destroy the world or to kill the whole civilization, only to then realize that he spent too much time explaining something, and that was just enough time for the protagonist to find out the kill switch and then just end your life. Oh, now I know your full secret. I wish I didn't say everything, but if only I just had one more second. That kind of shit.
Yeah. So
I say that because I only just finished watching a certain scientific Roka, and that's exactly what happened in the last episode.
Well, yeah. So that is my entry for Iceberg number 3.
Fucking A, dude. This was great. This was so fun.
I'm glad you liked it. I was really worried about how it was going to turn out, but I'm glad it worked out. And
I mean, as far as an info dump goes, this is probably the most entertaining way to do it.
Thank you. Well, That's it for now, right?
Now I have to think of a title for this.
I don't fucking know either. But
what you should do is just basically like take all those words like genres, subgenres, tags, Iceberg, and then throw it into DeepSeek or ChatGPT and see what it gets you.
Yeah, sure.
And it'll come back. It's like, I don't know what these are.
You have broken the system.
What was Mukokuseki? What is an NTR? All right, that's enough from Gus. All right, take care. Go watch some NTR.